Hello everyone, this is Melanie from Melanie B's Creative Studio and Supplies, and I'm back with part 3 of our Procreate tutorial in my Be Creative digital paint by number kit, Blue Santorini. I went ahead and I finished the entire kit. The only blending I've done is right here in the water like I showed you in part 2, and that little bit at that roof line right there. This kit could be totally finished just like you see it if you wanted to stop here. A lot of people will ask me, how do you know if you need to blend? You only need to blend if you want to blend. There is no rule. There are times where I am just like not in the mood for it. This one doesn't really require it because it has a very stylistic design. I didn't even have to do that water. The only reason I did that because it kind of drew my eye to it since that line was very harsh. But otherwise, I think the rest of this looks fine the way it is. You could go in and do a little blending in the building, like right here, and I can show you that. I'll go in with the Mini Magic blending brush just to show you any of these little areas in the gray and white, things like that, like here with the roof line. I mean, those could be blended. It doesn't take long. Now, if it was a floral, that kind of blending takes a while. I'll start here since I've got this little tiny mini blending brush, and this is a small area. Let's go a little smaller. I don't want the pressure sensitivity to expand too much, but all you have to do is just paint it. And I call it painting. I mean, people will be like, well, that's just coloring by number. When I start blending, it is no longer coloring. So there we go. I've got that little shadow going on. So once I've started blending, I would continue blending. You don't want to blend one little thing and then not blend everything. So I could have left just the water blended and not messed with the rest of this. But since I've started, I'll go ahead. Now, when I have little areas like white right here, this is just a highlight where the sun is hitting this part of the building. I don't want to take it out too far. But don't you wish all paintbrushes would magically blend like this one? When I designed these paintbrushes, I was like, where have you been all my life? One more thing I'll tell you about this little brush. Whichever direction you take it in is how this brush works. So let me explain. First of all, you notice I have it on a dark blue, but it's not coming out dark blue, right? So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to pull this blue into the white. Well, obviously I don't want to do it that way, but to show you, whichever way you're going with this brush is how the blending is going to get pulled. So if I push it back, the white's going into the blue, right? Thankfully, I can undo, tap, 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 and I'm going to undo slowly because I want to make sure I don't go back too far. And it's undone. But that's how this brush works. So it's super cool. This is the mini version of it because I'm working in some small places and I'm not going to continue to blend, like I said, much more. I just want to kind of give you a good idea of how to use this brush. In larger areas, you can go with the larger blending brush. I zoom out and I like to look at it and kind of see what needs to be tweaked. And I will leave it just like that. That's how quickly you can blend on one that's more of a stylistic design. And I can continue to do it if I want. All right, so that's this particular kit, Blue Santorini. So here's a kit that is in my Whimsy House collection, and this is the colored version of it. And you can see it has a really cool watercolor effect to it, or it would if I decided to paint it that way. So let's move it out of the way a little bit here. I painted it like a regular paint by number. So this is how far I got on the included layer that says paint on this layer. Well, after I had done all this little intricate work, I said, I want to do some blending. So what I did is I duplicated the layer so that I wasn't blending on this work that I've done, because I was concerned, well, what if I mess this up? So the first thing that I did is I went over to my layers panel and I duplicated this layer by swiping left and selecting duplicate. Of course, that gave me an exact copy of that same layer. Then I can click that little checkbox and turn off that layer. Then I'm able to work on the copy of it without worrying about messing up the original. So here you can see I started using those blending brushes that I've shown you. Once I completed all of this part, I duplicated that layer to make sure I didn't mess this part up, turned it off, and then I started adding the top part by painting it in. So you can see here, I haven't blended that part yet. I've just done the regular paint by number format, but I've blended the rest of this. So before I start messing with blending, I would duplicate the layer. So you can have 50 layers over here if your iPad has enough storage for it. But before I would start messing with blending, I always duplicate the regular paint by number layer and then just turn it off so I'm not messing with it. You can also lock layers with that same method by swiping left and hitting lock, and that will keep you from accidentally painting on a layer that you don't want to paint on. Okay, so once I painted the paint by number portion that was not blended, I duplicated it again, and then I finished the blending. So I had my final project, which I absolutely love. Then I signed it on a different layer. Right there, kind of hid it down there. I saved it a couple of different ways. I saved it as a Procreate, new file. So if I want to go back later and I say, oh, I really should have done this or done that, or, you know, whatever, I can do that. I saved it as a PNG file so that I can use it on my website. I still have this palette here where I can get to it. And if for some reason I've deleted this palette or something like that, then I can click on it in my file and install it back in here. So here is my palette for this particular kit, and you know, I can work with it if I need to. If I decide I'm done with this kit, all I have to do is select the 3 dots, delete this palette, and kind of clean up over here, whatever. I'm not going to do that yet because I still have a few little things I'd like to do, like maybe adding some details. One of the brushes that I used on this particular kit that I haven't explained yet, and you may see it. You see how this has got kind of a mottled watercolor effect? That is a brush that I added once I was playing with this particular kit, and this brush is perfect for all of the Whimsy House collection. And I'll show you real quickly how it works. So I'm going to unlock this layer. This is the layer that hasn't been painted, and I'm going to duplicate it so I can act like I haven't done any blending or anything on this. So I'm only going to just do a little part of this section. I will use the magical blender, and I'm going to use a smaller saved size and see what size I need. You'll notice I'm going to kind of go around the little polka dots. I want to leave them there. I want to preserve the little dots. If I go out of the line a little bit, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to come back and erase that off. You notice I'm just tapping for the moment to blend, and I'm pushing it up. And I'll move it back and forth a little just to move the two together to get this watercolor effect. That magical blender blends like an acrylic brush, but also like a watercolor brush. So it depends on what look you're going for, which is what makes it amazing to me. I'm going to go a little smaller in this area just because if the pressure sensitivity expands a lot, I'm not trying to touch that white, so I'm not going to put any pressure. Okay. So I have some blending and I have some depth and roundness to this little mushroom. But to get that watercolor effect, now I'm going to go up here to this funky watercolor effect. So I'm going to use the saved size here that I had, which is a size 35 with Apple Pencil. And it's going to make it look like I've dropped water or even maybe salt or something on this. So once I push this down, the pressure is going to give it that look. So let's see. And you see how it just kind of spreads it out? Now, the color here will make some determination on how it looks. So let's say I want it to be a little lighter in this area. So I'm going to choose white and give you that little highlight. So once you push it, it gives you that watercolor. Obviously, I wouldn't use it that much, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. But I'm going to add a little water effect there. I'm going to take a lighter pink and add a little water there. And you can change the size of your brush too to give it some more visual interest. Let's go in with a little bit of this color. Y'all can see how this one was a lot of fun to play with. Okay, and then I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper plummy purple here and just kind of overlap. Because you know, watercolor, it does a lot of fun stuff. So, all right, so that one's getting on my nerves. All right, but you just play. You just do however you want. Now, if I've gone outside the line over here, I'm going to take my eraser. And I should still, yeah, I should still be on that. So I can just clean up. It's a lot more forgiving than a regular paint. It's done. And I'm not liking that little blob right there. So I'm going to go see if I can clean it up a little. Start to make it a little bit messy. Take it away a little bit. And then I'll go let's go in with my magical blender and just kind of clean it up by blending it out. Remember, if we pull the light into the dark, we can get rid of what we see. So if it's a little harsh on some of those edges, you can just kind of blend them out. That's how I used the funky watercolor brush. So let's go back to my finished project, and that is my Whimsy House number 2. And then let's go look at another one. I won't go into detail as much on this one. This is my Rainbow Forest number 9. Here is the painted layer. This is what it looked like as a PBN version. I blended it using my brushes. The other thing I did is I added these little leaves in different colors of my palette on some of these brushes in the foreground. If you look, the leaves were not there on our painted layer. So keep in mind, you can add any elements you want when you're done. You don't have to leave it as it is. You can just add little extras. Those are just dots. Those are just little dashes, like little leaves. So embellish as you want to. And here was the first digital paint by number I ever did. It did not look like this in its paint by number version. This is my blended version, and this is when I decided to make my own blending brushes. And here is one that's called Poppies, and I'm not sure these are poppies, but they're fabulous. This is my blended version. It was my second. And this is just a small sampling of the artwork that you can complete with your iPad, an Apple Pencil, the Procreate app, and the hundreds of Be Creative digital kits that I have available on my website. I wanted to also share some of my works in progress. I'm a little obsessed with working on these kits, and I hope you will be too once you give them a try. I hope you guys have all enjoyed this series about Procreate and digital paint by numbers, and you're willing to step outside your comfort zone and try something a little bit different. It's perfect for when you're winding down at night and you need to just relax, or if you're on vacation and you cannot pack all of your paint by number gear, or even when you're sick like I was and you just need something to do because your mind is never idle. And or for those of you who, like on my group, who've had some kind of surgery and you cannot sit with an easel in your lap or get to your water cup and your paints, this is kind of an ideal scenario. I just hope it's been very informative. If you loved this, please let me know by dropping a comment below, subscribing to my channel. Be sure to give me a thumbs up and share this video with anyone that you think might enjoy it. I'll add links in the description for everything I've talked about in these 3 tutorials, including the upcoming Be Artistic printable paint by number kits, the Aesthetic printable paintings, and the Busy Bee printable paint by numbers for kids. Thanks as always for watching. I will see you back soon.